Hi there. Do you sabotage your best efforts? Do you delay self care? Do you find yourself working on the same issues over and over again with just temporary results? Like you've put a band aid on something? Do you feel burdened with unfinished business that impacts you and your relationships in many different ways? Well, you are not alone at all. There's a reason why you feel this way. There's a hidden source of pain that you may not be aware of that may be causing you to hold back in many different areas of your life. The pain is not only personal, it is a collective pain. And it's something that is often referred to as the mother wound or the wound of the womb of the mother. However, it isn't a wound that's often spoken about, even in trauma circles. It's the first wound, it's our primary relationship, and it impacts every aspect of who we are. The wound of the mother is something that we don't speak about because we live in a patriarchal culture. And it is a deeply internalized set of beliefs and patterns that originate with our mothers and our earliest dynamics in our relationships with our mothers. This wound causes us to limit ourselves in unconscious ways that damage self-confidence, self-esteem, and the value and pride that we deserve to feel about who we are and about being a woman. The mother womb, and wound is directly connected to the historical pain of being a woman in a patriarchal culture. For how many years? Over 2,000, 3,000, forever. And the pain gets passed on down through the generations of so many wounded women, women whose wombs have been damaged and hadn't been able to give birth properly, or because of that, haven't been available to be the mother that they could have been or wish they could have been. Before I was able to give full attention to heal the mother wound, or even recognize it in myself, to allow myself to see it and to start to own it, I tiptoed around it, I bypassed it, I ignored it, I suppressed it, I achieved beyond it. I puffed myself up like a peacock, but I had no place to land in my body. It was like I was disassociated, outside of myself, looking for the way in. I was afraid to feel anything beneath my belly, to really feel pain or pleasure. I was numb, and I knew of all the different activities that could allow me to remain numb. The result was low self-esteem, weak boundaries, over or underachieving, running away from intimacy, from close connections with jobs, with people, with nature. And moreover, the most important part is this underlying sense of deep shame that is utterly exhausting. I avoided considering I might have a mother wound at all costs because it felt too painful. Anytime I peeked, it was just too painful. How would I talk about it, or to who? I was afraid to look deeply at my relationship with my own mother or my womb until I became a mother. And then everything changed. I was busy working hard prior to then to win the approval in the house of the fathers. That's another story that I'll have to get to later. We need to take this a bit at a time, one piece at a time, and give all of our attention to the mother, to the deep feminine, finally. Partly it took so long for me to acknowledge this wound, as women only recently earned some rights to speak up, to have a fair wage, to have a bank account, to receive support, to say no to the many predators that lurk the corridors of life, to have some bit of control over their bodies. And in some places, this still isn't the case. In university in the 80s, that was part of the women's movement back then. And I was in a women's studies program along with a theological consort, which was primarily patriarchal. So I knew though something was missing in that. So I did women's studies. And I discovered that the history of women is incredibly painful. And even in learning about it, much of it was still hidden back then. It isn't the same to learn about something as to heal from it. So we've skirted these issues for centuries. And now we're beginning to recognize how urgent this need is. And even that back then, the more I learned, the more tentative I became, as I really didn't know what to do with feelings. We weren't schooled in the feeling function. No, we are schooled more in the intellect, more in academic achievement, or how to get better at a particular skill, right? So I was afraid, I thought like if I really continued to enter into these different territories, that a bomb could go off at any point. So I like many people dealt with the surface issues, and would receive temporary relief. And that temporary relief actually really maintains a kind of a victim mode, and it keeps us somewhat asleep, like going along for the ride. So we're not really living. It's an unlived life. And then within us, there will be this sense of something missing. So therefore, we will continue to seek. We'll seek also outside of ourselves. But once I summoned the courage to descend rather than transcend, which is how spirituality was taught back then and still is in many places here, it's kind of to deny the body, to leave the feeling, the emotions, all of the different aspects of being fully human, to bypass those aspects. But when I did summon the courage finally to descend to the underground, to feel beneath my belly, because prior to that I didn't, when I was willing to enter unknown terrain, my life began to change dramatically, and things opened for me that I never imagined possible. I didn't even know, sometimes we don't even know how blocked we are until we're unblocked. We don't know what we don't know until we know it, that expression. But the energy in the base of my body, I really didn't have access to it. And then I started to feel my legs and my feet, an energy that would anchor me in my womb, in my body, and help me to orient myself into a way of being intimate with who I am. And this is a long journey for many of us. People outside and around me began to notice different changes in me. My feet were more on the ground. I was moving more slowly. I wasn't always in a hurry, more centered and calm. And I stopped running away from discomfort or challenging situations. And one for me was intimacy. And that's another story. But I also began to find my voice. The cobwebs from my mind began to clear, and I started to take much better care of myself. I learned to say no, started to develop healthier boundaries, and stopped apologizing, And sometimes maybe an apology was at hand, but it's nice to kind of be on the other side of that for a while. And the result of that was a growing confidence and excuse me, self-love. So this is a while ago, and it was 29 years ago that I had my first baby, and I had her at home naturally and ecstatically without any intervention. So we lived together for almost 2 years in this embodied bliss. I couldn't imagine anything to be more wonderful. And then my twins were born about 2 years into this time, and they were born through a needless power dynamic of interventions in a medical system, Stanford Hospital, right? So that was a critical period in my life that has taken many years to recover from. And even still, sometimes today, I'll say to myself, not nearly as much, but oh, how I wish I could bring them back into my womb. And if I knew what I know now, if I knew more about patriarchal systems, if I knew more about my rights as a woman, if I knew not to enter certain terrains without proper supports. So I wish I knew that. And I wish I knew more women in my life at that time, other than my midwife, who had great confidence in me, other than the therapist I was working with, or my many female colleagues who were also spiritual teachers like myself at the time, but they didn't know, they didn't choose to be a mom, because back then we didn't know that you could be a mom and a spiritual teacher at the same time. It was one or the other, kind of an old remnant of the Catholic, or different dogmas where you have to renounce everything in order to have a spiritual vocation, especially things having to do with the body. So I think for many of us, we have like these hidden loyalties to patriarchal spirituality. And back then we didn't even know that we had them, but we also didn't know that we had choices. So I knew many of women trained on a path of avoidance, fear, or transcendence, where you go up and out of the body and can have these kind of I am not the body experiences, which, again, is kind of a temporary type of thing, but not these down and in, to descend into the body. And that's truly what the journey, the soul of a woman, of our conscious feminine nature is. It's about descending and including every part of being human in every part of our bodies. So I didn't know back then the urgent need for women to be initiated in the conscious feminine power for spiritual development and healing, not nearly as much as I recognized this after the birth of my twins. And I didn't know I didn't know any women who could model this, and what it would be like on the other side of healing. Was it like, or what could it be like to be a sovereign woman, to consciously embody the feminine feeling function and all of who we are, with or without children, it doesn't matter, but to really meet and be with and become a woman who has resurrected all of herself from the harmful patterns of patriarchal dynamics that also harm men. It's a dynamic, it's a power dynamic. It's not about a gender. So I've said a lot, but I might as well tell you who I am. I'm Prajna O'Hara, and I'm an expert on healing the mother womb and the womb of the mother as a gateway to undoing conditioned patterns and becoming a sovereign woman, regardless of your age. And the sooner, the better. We have resources and tools and knowledge available to us more now than ever before. And the need for this is greater than ever before, because you can't separate the body of the woman from the body of the earth. We are one and the same. So I spent over 2 decades helping women from all over the world in different contexts, mostly on retreats, to heal this deep core wound and emerge as fierce, free, happy, and sovereign women, just as you are meant to be. So the good news is that once we focus on healing the mother wound, we're no longer dealing with surface problems and symptoms in your body, mind, soul. You're actually dealing with the core issue from where these other problems arise. Excuse me, I'm just getting over a cold. Because the relationship with our mothers and our wombs is so foundational to who we are, we need to do this good work. Everybody is born of the mother. Everyone has a mother, and the scale of the healing potential is unlimited. You will see changes and shifts happening immediately in multiple areas of your life just by focusing on this core issue, just by descending into your body, just by going beneath the waist, beneath the shoulders, engage the heart, all of the feeling sensations, the feeling function all through the body and all the way down into the womb and the legs. This is the underground journey. It's a metaphor, but it's very real. So my goal is to provide you with the tools necessary to dismantle the dysfunctional patterns associated with the mother wound, the womb of the mother, to help you construct new patterns, new ways of living that actually support you to be your true self, to be your authentic self, to feel empowered, confident, and connected in ways that feel nourishing and satisfying. And I really want to support you to do whatever the hell it is that you want to be doing, not what you believe in your mind you ought to be doing. So, having spent over 4 decades on my own healing journey, I have created a roadmap of healing that covers, and it's tested, tried, and true. It covers the sacred rites, excuse me, of passage or initiations that have not been celebrated in our culture. This way you can mature psychologically. Your soul can grow. The soul and the psyche are not separate. You can restore your instinctive nature. You can receive what is needed to achieve healing of the mother wound, of your own womb, whether you are a mother or not biologically. That does not matter. This roadmap of initiations benefits women across the spectrum of maiden, mother, virgin, crone. And it's appropriate for all women, whether you have had more peaceful, early relationships with mother or with birthing, or whether your relationship has been more complex and painful, as mine has been. But it works for everyone because we have wounds, and it is beyond time to feel the pride at being in the body of a woman. The 7 initiations are gateways to a transformational journey and how to heal your womb, how to heal the mother wound. So I want to talk to you just quickly here about the most common fear that people have about engaging in this healing work is that it can get interpreted to mean that we're blaming our mothers, that the mother has done something wrong, that she is at fault. But let me let you know, let's underline this. She is not at fault at all. This is not about blaming anyone. This is about empowering ourselves, healing ourselves, our wounds. And when we do that, that healing benefits the mothers that have gone before us and the mothers that are still yet to come. We've been victim to circumstance in many ways, and we don't have to be victim, play that role. So as soon as we start to blame somebody or something, we're still in victim mode. So we're moving beyond that pretty quickly. It's a process of undoing, of remembering, and of connecting to what is true, what is essential. My work empowers you to get to the root of what your major challenging issues are within yourself personally and then outside professionally and with others so that you can heal, have intimacy, and you can emerge as your true self in a body that you feel good about, and that you can live truly true to yourself in all of your daily affairs. Ultimately, this work is not about our mothers. It's about how women have been shamed about being a woman since the beginning of time, and how she, you, me, we can claim our sovereignty. I want to save you precious time and energy. It has taken me a very long time to recognize the impact of this historical wound and how it continues to scar women and children, especially at birth in the early days. We are changing this, and we can change this. We get to celebrate the most precious and vulnerable moments from birth to death and everything in between with verve and purpose and the highest degree of self-love and mastery. You'll save a tremendous amount of energy by doing this deep inner work rather than navigating symptoms of the wounds over and over again without permanent results or without transformation. Symptoms such as not having clear boundaries, healthy boundaries, procrastinating, symptoms of being obsessed with food, with body image, with pushing to perform, to be polite, to please others, to be perfect. Those are all symptoms of a deeper wound, all rooted in a lack of trust in our bodies, in ourselves, in our wombs, in our mothers. So we can correct that. We are correcting it. Not owning self-worth, not taking responsibility for your art, for your happiness, and perhaps settling for unhappy relationships, perhaps even settling for abusive relationships, is not the way to go. You do not have to. But mostly you do not have to feel the shame at the base of who you are without really knowing how to name it or even access it, right? So this is what this course will do for you. It will allow you to get to the root of that shame and that pain, the sense of disconnection and separation. I want you to save your precious time by descending to the root cause and by emerging healed with energy to live your life the way you want to live it. Yeah. And we descend and we emerge many times because our growth is not linear. Our healing isn't linear. It isn't like we go from A, B, C, D in a line, but we circle around. And each time we're shedding more of what isn't true about us, and we're gathering more of what is true. And we're getting stronger, we're rooting, we're deepening, and we're arising and emerging all at the same time. It's a beautiful journey. So when you step into this healing vortex, you link arms with me and with thousands of women from all over the world who are ready to break, or probably have already begun to break cycles of oppression, suppression, and become the fierce, free, and unstoppable women that you're meant to be, without fear and without apology. If you are committed to your growth, your empowerment, and rising to claim your inner well of accumulated wisdom and become a wise, salty crone like me, join me. That's why they call me the Salty Crone, because I'm doing this work and I want to support others to do it. So when you rise in this way, you can become a guiding light for others. And we need this now more than ever. So I invite you to join me in person or in one of my online courses. I look forward to supporting you as a friend, as a sister, as a mentor, as a crone, as a curandera, as a mother, and to guide you to lasting transformation all the way into the most precious years of your life, which is every day, which is now. Let's uncover what many women have named as the missing piece in their healing journey. Heal the mother wound, heal the mother womb, and create inner safety. When we own our wounds, they no longer own us, right? Meaning nothing needs to have power over. That's what has been destabilized, deconstructed, patriarchal systems. So now we get to stabilize and empower in our own bodies, feel empowered. So I look forward to meeting you in person. If you've already been with me, I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.